Good evening, local warriors. I'm Danah Zoulek, and I'm your host. Thank you for joining us tonight. So, I'm a little bit nervous because we've sort of had this uh, many big things happen in the Village of Richfield. But the biggest question we get is, what is this no halfway house about? So, tonight I have a very special guest with me, and her name is Pam, and she is running for Village of Richfield trustee as a write-in. And we're just going to go ahead and tell her story and share with the community everything that we've kind of learned as best as we can in a digestible sort of way. So let's see here. Welcome, Pam. Hi, Pam.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone.
So maybe just to get this all kicked off, can you kind of tell us how you found out about the halfway house coming to Richfield?
I found out by a letter in the mail, dated for January 22nd. I may not have gone to my mailbox for a few days. So by the time I opened the letter, I had just a few days to think it over. I read it, and it seemed like it was some kind of voltage refuge house for battered women in its description. That's how I interpreted it with all the jargon.
Gotcha.
And I set it aside kind of angry because I wasn't sure whether I liked that, but I didn't want to be mean.
Right.
I know the FBI stores women in some of these facilities and it's needed. I've
Right.
heard that anyway. Um, and by the time I got online and saw that some of my neighbors had not received the letter and it was not what I thought, it was worse, I had about 4 hours to decide whether I was going to print off a petition and take my little red table up there and start protesting. Although I've never been an activist before.
I did not even realize that you only had about 4 hours to make that decision, and boy, did you ever make a decision. I know when I went to that board meeting that night, so this happened on, what is it, the 4th? February 4th was the initial, what did they call it, open house?
Yes, they were there. I thought that it was going to be a Q&A. That's what the letter said. Then I kind of imagined it being the first time I've ever gone to like a town hall meeting like this, that there would be a podium and you could get up and ask them questions and they would sit on a board or something official. I had no idea that they were just going to hand out cookies and try to make people like them.
Right. So it became pretty obvious to me, the way I heard about it, I don't know if you know this, but I had a friend of mine in the community reach out to me because she received the letter. And I sort of just a couple words popped out to me in the letter initially. I, for one, am not against people who have addictions, looking for help and receiving help. With that being said, uh, I think most people in our community, the majority of Richfield, feels that, we do support mental health awareness and help for people, but that's not what this organization is, right? We learned
Right.
that kind of pretty quickly that night. I myself had a lot of internal struggles because I never want to prevent somebody from getting help that they need. However, um, there are groups out there that are formed who disguise themselves as help, and they may even truly believe they're helping, but the reality is they're not licensed. They don't have doctors. They don't have anybody equipped to deal with the mental health challenges of addiction. It's literally a pray enough, right?
Right. Um, this is something that I think we've all gone through before in years that we weren't born, where the church tries to cure you by prayer.
Right.
And although I am a Christian and I believe prayer does a lot of things, um, because we didn't follow the Bible to standard, we've done things to our own nation and community and world that it's irreversible, and professional help in medicine and science does go with religion, and I think
Right.
that needs to be a little bit more involved here than um, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Right.
uh,
Right. So as far as people, as far as this organization itself, I just want to kind of let everybody know, they are associated with the Assembly of God. I'm not here to bash churches. I'm just here to basically expose how local government can use their powers to basically affect how a community perceives something coming into their community. Does that make sense? I don't know if I said that correctly, right? Um, so I wanted to go through your background a little bit. Let's kind of table that for a second and just tell everybody kind of a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, as stated before, my name's Pam Dwayne. I was born in Milwaukee, but we did move all over Wisconsin. So I have been in many different cities, towns, and villages. When I was 18, I decided to go into the Army to better myself and serve my nation. And shortly after I enlisted, 9/11 happened. I finished my enlistment. And when I got out, I wasn't in very good shape. I mean, it was like taking baseball bat to a beehive. And I didn't really think that what we were doing was going to work. We needed more. So I went to UWM and I've got a global security bachelor's degree, specialized in Arabic studies, methodology, went over to Egypt. Did I say I minored in Arabic? Got an international peacekeeping certificate
Wow.
for conflict mediation. Did 2 internships with the Sudanese refugees to continue their English education. Uh,
Wow.
9 languages. Very impressive
Yeah.
people. And
Right.
I also got suckered into teaching peacekeeping classes in the protesting square in the middle of Cairo, where
Really?
I really wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be a big secret, but they
Ooh.
didn't sign off on my credits. So I ended up graduating. And when I came home, I had found out that Obama had
Oh,
cut
no.
down the security forces so hard in the US, I couldn't even scale my degree down to work within my own country because I really didn't want to go back over there. That was just, I think I made a mistake. I should have studied Hebrew. Anyway, um, so I bartended, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And then Trump got in. Some of my bar customers that work for Zignego were like, Pam, you'd be a great fit. You got the attitude for construction. We do road construction, we do concrete. Come with us. So I went and got my CDL and ended up working the last 10 years for a variety of companies. But currently, finally, I am experienced enough to be brokered. So I can still
Wow.
work for all these companies, but I don't have to work with the same company every day, which I
Gotcha.
thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
that's the short story, I guess.
That's
Is
the
that
short
enough? All
story.
right.
So I guess we're a couple of female veterans sitting here chatting, trying to do what we can to make a difference. Um, so I guess why don't we cover a few of I think there's 2 major issues. Well, 3 altogether that are going on in the village.
Mhm.
Altogether. We have an election going on right now. I threw my hat in for the Village of Richfield president, and I had no idea that any of this was going to happen when I put my name in. I have consistently, for all of you that watch my channel, we do gain subscribers. YouTube's a bit harder to get subscribers than like TikTok. And, I'm kind of a nerdy channel. You know, we sort of geek out on really geeky things. And people are always like, can't you make it shorter? It's just too long. And well, I just like to get on and chat. And I don't script it, I don't plan it. I kind of, maybe an hour before the show starts, I'll contact a few people, get some screenshots of things I want to talk about and share it. But tonight, really, if you can explain to everybody how much we've been working and what every day has been like, doesn't it feel like every 20 minutes there's something?
This is mind blowing. And you often question your sanity going through.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a campaign thing because I've never been in politics before. Um, I bought a house out here 6 years ago in order to live in a quiet area. This is a very sleepy town. We like it because it's sleepy and we can have our own yards. I like to say land rich, cash poor out here,
Right?
which is just fine with me. Um,
It's the
but
American way,
I,
right?
I seem to be thrust in into throwing my hat in the ring for trustee. And our campaign team, although people come and go, we have all stayed up until 2 a.m. every single day for
Yeah.
3 trying to figure out how to put a stop injunction on this, looking up ordinances like Danah did, just any little thing that we can do. Who didn't get a letter? If we can prove who didn't get a letter, maybe we got a case against this.
Right.
We do have the petition. I'm happy to say that we have 907 signatures.
Woo!
So, although some of you
Man.
double signed, that won't be the final number. But we, according to what I've learned, we only needed 763 good ones.
Okay.
Because 5,088 of you voted in the election. I had to get 15% of that legislatively. That would be where the 763 comes from. So I am hoping that we can take this to the Wisconsin election recall and recall everyone that voted yes, because we were telling our board that we do not want this in our community. Right. And I want to add that I have looked into other communities. Some other communities have ordinances that the people are allowed to petition.
Right.
They have a percentage or a number or whatever, probably a percentage. We don't have that. There's nothing that says, okay, well, if Pam gets 20% of, the population and signatures, we'll shut it down.
Right.
And we should have something like that, actually.
Yeah, I think what I've learned in the past 10 years is that doing business in Richfield, in my opinion, is very difficult. It's just it's just the mentality of that good old boy system, pat each other on the back, make sure your buddy's pockets get stuffed. And really what I have witnessed in the past 10 years is this ability to take our ordinances and instead of benefiting the community as a whole, it seems to be that there's only a few people that benefit at the expense of the rest of the community. And I don't know about you, Pam, but, being a veteran myself, it really, really deeply bothered me when I started researching and I started discovering things that I just didn't sit well with me. I would have to say that the Whitcomb case, especially, that's been going on for 20 years. Anybody is welcome to look it up. It's public record, but this family for 20 years has just been harassed by village officials over a zoning ordinance that shouldn't even exist. Their property should not be zoned M3. That for me was what did it. I'm like, you know what? I mean, you can take everything that happened with my own case and you're welcome to go back, anybody listening, and listen to any of those episodes. I had my own legal battles with Richfield that I prevailed in. And the court's decision was to stop, and they never stopped leaving me alone. And this is just how they conduct business. If somebody stands up against them and tries to say no, they don't like what they're doing, they will just use their ordinances as a zoning tool to just whoosh to anybody they don't like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay. We're American. Right.
I have not had that happen to me. This is the first time I've spoken out in this community. So I am prepared for the backlash. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to live a second across the street from free roaming mentally ill or people that are being quarantined by religious people and possibly might want to escape.
Right.
I'm just not going to take that risk for my personal safety. So it's unfortunate that I would have to sell this house after it got approved. We're all going to lose a lot of money on this.
Well, let's talk about that, because some of the things that I've noticed, when reading through the meeting minutes, and for anybody that's watching that's interested, you can actually go on the Village of Richfield site and read the minutes from the February 6th Planning Commission. And there seems to be just a misunderstanding and a disconnect between what this group, Great Lakes Adult Teen and Challenge, is saying that they're going to bring to the community and what in actuality they will bring to the community. So if you want, we can go through a couple of those talking points. One thing that a lot of the community was concerned about was security. So we asked them, and would you like to tell them their answer?
Yes, because I stayed until 2 a.m. that night to hear everyone. In the end, they admitted they do not have a comprehensive security plan. The board even voiced their concern about their presentation and lack thereof. And the closing statement by their leadership at the end of the night was, it doesn't matter what your citizens here think. It doesn't matter what anyone in this room thinks except for the board. It doesn't matter what your town thinks. And she was quite thorough in what she had to say, in that we did not matter in this community. Only the board mattered and what they want to put in here. And that kind of mentality shouldn't be accepted in any town, city, or village.
Well, no, and I think too, the interesting part to me was just how much conflict of interest was surrounding it to begin with. You know, it's sort of like, I feel like right now the board and local officials are pulling back, like, oh, no, we don't agree anymore. Well, but then, you know, which individual, and I think we all know who it is, but which individual spent all of the tax dollars and resources trying to make this be pushed through? This wasn't like something that happened overnight. This was planned for months, right?
I believe that they've been planning this for a long time. Yes, all the key players are the people with the most money in town, clearly.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the other when, you know, there's some people out there that say we're trying to trick the community by calling it a halfway house. Would you like to share with everybody why we call it a halfway house?
We call it a halfway house because they put that on their website. They call themselves a halfway house.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we are using that term because that is a term that's universal, apparently, and everyone understands what that means.
Right.
We're not going to fancy it up. I could tell you I'm a transportation specialist, but the reality is I pave highways.
88 Mike.
No. All right.
And then, you know, there is the zoning issue. You know, this Great Lakes Adult Teen Challenge is planning to, they put in an application. I know I'm going to jump all over the place. That's just how I run the show. They put in an application to basically take over the old St. Hubert's Church on Hubertus and Scenic Road area. And, you know, St. Gabriel still owns that church. And it just seemed really, it didn't sit well with a lot of people in the community that, you know, our village administrator was on the board for St. Gabriel's. We've got a couple of board members who attend St. Gabriel's. We have board members who are tied in with the road builders that, you know, a lot of people are like, why do you go after the road builders so much? The road builder issue that I have, it's not that I hate every single person in the road builders. My issue is when they use their money and their power to squelch people like you and I and other people in the community that are just trying to also go about our daily lives and work and provide for our families. And when we come along and we try to do something good, like I did with the scenic pit, like, you know, the Whitcombs are trying to do, you know, it's like they use the influence they have over the board to sort of snuff you out. And that's when I start having a problem with it. And well, this site is funded by one of the largest, you know, by a huge business person, right?
We found it interesting in the letter that I studied pretty hard before I popped the petition table. There was a couple sentences in there that said that was it Brown Development and
Brownfield.
something Associates. There's another company involved. They stopped development. So they were in the middle of something and they stated in the letter that they stopped something because these people applied.
Well,
I must be special if you're going to stop a whole operation. What were they in the middle of? We find out they were in the middle and about to do phase 2 testing on the property. I find that
it was, they had applied for a brownfield grant through Washington County. In fact, let me just go into my, because I have the document. And if anybody is, oh, I don't even have my chat up in case anybody's chatting.
I don't know if I'm all over the place on that. I know you were going down another road and then I just went down.
You know, it has been a while. It's been a hot minute since I've actually even gone live because of it's just been constant,
Do we have anyone on here?
Yes,
Oh,
we do.
hello.
Okay, so let me see if I can find that letter real quick that was received. Do you have that letter on you, Pam?
I do.
Why don't you just read the section about the brownfield study? Because one of the biggest questions that seems to happen, is people are like, well, how did they come here in the first place, right? And it seems like during the brownfield study that Jim Healy said something like there was an opportunity to advertise the property, or it's something along those lines. I don't even think Jim Healy sent the letter. I think Anna Kissel did. But I guess she went to go get it. We'll just have to wait. But yeah, it was that letter. Is that what you went to get, Pam? Do 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 do. Okay. So for all of you that are just joining, I just want to remind everybody, we do welcome people commenting. Please subscribe. If you have any questions, I will do my best to share the question or share your comment. Trolls, we welcome you. As long as you don't get out of control, I have no problem booting people out, but for the most part, we just like to engage in dialogue and discussion and talk about issues. So tonight we're talking about the GLATC, the Great Lakes Adult Teen and Challenge, and their petition to move on to the St. Gabriel's in the Village of Richfield. And basically, some of the questions that the community members have had when we've been out and about talking to everybody is sort of like, well, why? What? It's just not a good fit. And it just seems like a whole lot of conflict of interest, I'm just waiting for Pam to get back. I'm buying some time. There she is.
All right, I'm back. Everything was out in the car because I was at the pig on Sunday, and I have not cleared it out yet. So it says, the Plan Commission will be reviewing an adaptive reuse project development plan for property located at blah, 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 tax key, blah, blah, blah. The applicant is Great Lakes Adult and Teen Challenge. They are proposing to open the Dawson Home for Women, a substance abuse recovery center on the property. You can learn more, and then they give us the website. That's how you can see the halfway house. That's how you can see that they treat all destructive disorders. This is not just substance abuse.
Right.
And furthermore, we found that they also take rapists and in their men's center. So Great Lakes Adult Teen and Challenge will be holding an open house style public meeting from 5 to 6:30. A lower level, blah, blah, blah. In the fall, you might have received an invitation for a public input. I didn't receive anything for public input. I don't know if there's any way to prove that. Richfield sends a letter to all of us. I consistently get this letter that Richfield makes. The Richfield distorter, let's call it that, because it's missing a bunch of information like this. This would have been helpful.
Are you talking about their newsletter?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe it was in there. I mean, if it was, somebody please let me know.
That newspaper just controls the narrative. That's what it does.
Right.
It's their way of, right.
I
think what everybody in Richfield
here it is. In the fall, you may have received an invitation to a public input meeting with the Washington County Brownfield Development Program and Vandewell Associates. The planning effort with the Brownfield Development Program is currently on hold. Why is it on hold? This is where that phase 2 contamination testing thing comes in. Right. Essentially, that effort was undertaken in order to promote the property, which was for sale at the time. We say at the time because we know Father Tim did not have this property listed for the entire 5 years. What was he doing? Why not broadcast it to everybody?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Great Lakes Adult Teen Challenge put in an offer to purchase before the planning effort was complete. Before the planning effort was complete. So, with the wording and us studying it, we realized reading this letter that money has not been exchanged. And that's why, another reason why we thought we had a chance to beat this down. They had not exchanged the money yet.
Gotcha. So right now, there's a lot of signs you'll see in the community, the vote no to the halfway house. And I think it's important for people to understand that we have 3 candidates that are running. And the truly the only way for us to guarantee as a community that this gets shut down is to elect new board members. I mean, it's really just that simple. I would like to see our community come back together and have more citizen input, have more government accountability, really, is what I think we as a community are looking for. We're not looking to be duped. We're not looking to have things snuck in under the table and narratives pushed. We just want a community where, we feel that our voice matters too, not just the people with the deep pockets. Would that be accurate?
I think that would be pretty accurate. A little bit more transparency, some notice to the citizens that live here.
Right. More engagement in the planning.
Least. Engage with us, talk to us. What do we want? What do we don't want?
Right.
Citizens in this village need to have more input and say.
Well, I think one thing that's really concerning is, when you look at the sewer and water coming into the Richfield, a lot of people don't realize that we did actually enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Germantown. So sewer and water is coming to Richfield. And, that issue reminds me a lot of what happened during the sewer and water in the past 10 years is what I'm worried is going to happen with this application from GLATC. So what happened with sewer and water is Richfield said, no, sewer and water is never coming to Richfield. I think Josh Showman said that in an article. John Jeffords said that. And then they just passed this ordinance where they don't even need to take it to referendum. And we, the taxpayers, are now on the hook for bringing sewer and water into the Highway 175 corridor. I just don't think
like we wouldn't even have to be maybe even addressing this if our huge contamination mountain of garbage hill that the Dawsons, what is that, a mountain of nowhere contamination draining down the hill with all our heavy rains right onto their property. They live right at the base of this thing. They've poisoned themselves. And now you're going to bring crackheads into our town and further damage our area so that we have to bring the water in. It's almost like they're forcing us to do it.
Well, I think in our research, we were able to see that could be. I mean, and I just want to say right now, this is not all of the opinions on my channel are, when I have guests on that, these are her opinions. I'm not saying you're incorrect. I'm just letting people know.
I'm just saying how it looks. That's
how
it looks.
Right. Well, it is interesting because they do, when you go back into meeting minutes of surrounding towns, it seems to be a pattern. It seems to be we mine, we restore, and the groundwater, and now we need sewer and water. And quite frankly, I know that utilities are needed. Okay, utilities are important for I guess what you can say for, civilization. I just don't see how it's okay to go about it that way while hurting other business owners and residents in the meantime. Like, I don't find that to be responsible. I find it to be sort of just a good old boys system, pat each other on the back, go down the road. I mean, that's quite frankly what happened with my site. It was an abandoned quarry. It had a conditional use permit to be restored, and the mining company walked away. They left it abandoned, and it was in the comprehensive plan to be restored. So, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating to me too, because I see that this takes away our sense of community.
Yes.
and we don't have very many buildings in our little village.
No.
They are what they are. They're little small businesses mostly. I'm not happy with the dollar store. I think it makes our town look dumpy. It does, and it's inflation, so we need stuff at a good price. But
I do
there's
like
not
the
much
dollar
here.
store, though. I mean, I kind
We
of
have a
love
dollar
it.
store, a bank, two great bars, for sloppy joes and
I
giant.
will admit, I thought it was really weird when I saw it going up. I was like, well, that's weird. But I can't tell a lie. I really love fairy gardens. And I
But
like fairy garden stuff at the
it just
dollar
looks
store.
like that's all we have. So you've got two supper clubs next to a rehab center that's taking people in from out of jail.
Yeah, it's weird. That
We
it's
know that they can change it once they own the land from letting 20 women garden and live for free. They can make it a men's center. They can add a teen center. They can add their own little commune thrift store. And it just seems like this is getting dumpier and dumber. Bad idea after bad idea instead of, why
I
not a
don't understand how
Starbucks?
the village ever thought that the groundwater monitoring ordinance, which by the way, the DNR has been asking them to repeal, but that's another issue for another day. Our groundwater monitoring ordinance, I saw in the packet that Great Lakes was going to have to apply, to get a groundwater monitoring permit. I just found it really interesting because of that area having been disrupted. It had been mined, it's been reclaimed, it's been developed. We've got the church with all kinds of asbestos and, issues. And I just don't see how it makes any sense, number one, to farm it, right? Because now we're disturbing the soil. And then also, what about the draw from the groundwater? I mean, if they're going to be farming and using, a lot of water, and I just, none of it makes sense. It doesn't follow the comprehensive plan. It doesn't follow the zoning.
Yes, the comprehensive plan was home ownership and to keep this a rural little village.
Right.
Not bring urban stuff in. Lately I'm seeing urban. So
Yeah,
my proposal on my flyer is to work a deal out with the church where all the homes pay a set amount of money. For example, if there's 6,000 homes in Richfield, which we know there's more, and everyone pays,
there's a little less, isn't there? It's like,
I think it's more homes than 6,000, but everyone would pay $863 payment plan, like a one-time fee, and we would knock it down. Leave the land flat. Do not disturb it. And what do we put on top? We could donate it to firefighter training ground. We could donate it back to the church and they could keep digging graves. I don't know what the laws are with disturbing the ground to put another grave in, but I'm sure at this point there's so many people in this community that would rather have anything else. Well, let's axe the high-rise condo idea. I don't like that either.
Sorry, I'm just answering in the chat room. Okay, well, I apparently had a typo. We had a question, why didn't they talk about a permit that has to be renewed like their Milwaukee house? Oh, wait, nope, that's not the question I answered. Has anyone looked into how much sewer will cost each homeowner? The basic estimates that we have right now for the intergovernmental agreement that Richfield has entered into with Germantown is approximately $9 million. But we do deep dives on this show. So tonight I'm just doing a basic overview, kind of just to get our feet wet a little bit. And, we'll be doing deep dives into each of these secondary issues because as I think Pam's learned, there's lots of rabbit holes, right?
Yeah, it's hard. This isn't even a comprehensive interview. We are winging it. Next time I come on here, I'll have more of an agenda written down of.
I knew I just had to go ahead and do it. Yeah, this is an impromptu. Like literally, I bought a microphone, but I don't have the proper cable for my MacBook. So I'm relying on my MacBook's audio and video, which thank God it's a MacBook because they're pretty good at that to begin with. I'm also helping my dad. He has Parkinson's and my mom is away with her cousins on a trip. So, I'm hanging out with my dad, having some dad and daughter time and in Hartford right now. So I just figured, why not? Why not just jump on, have a little chitty chat with the community and, that way people can kind of jump on and see where everything's at.
We had no idea we were going to do this until 10 minutes before we did.
I know.
I apologize
So
for.
thank you for being available, right?
Yeah, I wish I had something more put together here, you
We
know.
will. This is just the first time, okay? It's kind of getting our feet wet. Um, I just want everybody in the community to stay positive. I want everybody to work together. It's really hard. I always tell people, they're like, Dana, why do you fight so much? You always fight with and it's like, no, I'm just simply looking for what is it that we can all agree on, right? Because with all of the tension and the fighting in our world, in our country, like if we can't even get it right at home, how can we get it right anywhere else? And so all I've been asking for the past 10 years is to be ethical. I want our our Richfield officials, our government officials, our local officials all across the country, but especially at home, to treat their residents, you know, with the with the Constitution. Is that I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I mean, we have a Bill of Rights. And it's not supposed to be, oh, just for your buddies. No, it's for us all. And quite frankly, Pam, you know, uh, I I get really passionate because I'm a veteran, and I'm sure you can connect with that a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, I mean, we are trained and used to working for the people. It's ground into us, even though we're not in anymore. You know,
Could
a
you
public service,
imagine?
it pulls us in, doesn't it?
I mean, with as much drama as there can be, even when we're, within a unit, there's always weird things happening. But could you imagine if this kind of non-transparency and um, shady deal, like it would never happen. There would
It
be,
shouldn't happen. And,
no,
we're fixing it at the top. Now we got to fix it in our towns, villages, and cities.
right, and give
And
it
we've
back
got
to
to
the
fight
people.
like hell with stuff like this.
Right,
If Milwaukee has a drug problem, they need to fix it. You
right,
know, I, uh, you take care of your own community, is what
right.
we're trying to say. And
Yeah, we just don't have the
elected officials
infrastructure.
it is their job to take care of the community that they were elected to and look out for them, look out for their best interest, not do a money deal to bring drug addicts in from a city that's way far away, or Illinois. This place also represents Illinois. um, I
Well, they're
don't think that I
worldwide.
should be forced, and anyone should be forced to pay for other people and their charity. Like, charity is donated.
Right.
This is going to cost us not only the 7 to 17% decrease on our home values, but in addition, I'm hearing the sheriff is for it because he wants a contract to get more police out here because we don't have a police force. And to me, that's ludicrous, as I've already stated, because his troops live out here. They want to come home to peace too. They don't want to have to feel unsafe in their own homes. Um, in addition, we've got this backdoor possible water deal that's going to be coming through. So that's going to be even more money. I think we're calculating about a 38% increase for a so called faith based charity organization that is not our kids in our community with these kind of issues.
Another thing too is that there seems to be some controversy about whether or not people come from prison to go to the halfway house, and that, quite frankly, that's what really opened my eyes up, because I remember being at the meeting and they said that does not happen.
They did say that. They lied.
Yeah, and then we just all of these documents and all of this research we've done, and it's just not true. The lack of security. Do you want to talk about the sawed-off shotgun guy? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, we've posted a bunch of articles on Fight for Our Community website for Facebook. There was a rapist kid. There was the sawed-off shotgun. We
We're
the
just like driving
911
around looking
calls.
for women that were in the house, right? Like they,
Yeah, so I mean, to paint these women as poor, meek women that just want to garden and live their life, I mean, that doesn't sit well with me, even if you aren't a violent maniac. But it does sound like there's some violence in here, even
well, on the other flip
even
side of
though
the
we're using
coin,
the term woman.
Well, right. And on the flip side of the coin, I'm not even looking at it from the perspective of the individuals that attend the facility as far as being violent themselves. My concern too is, just the methods that they use. They're kind of they're outdated. They're
outdated.
harmful. And I mean, there's actual groups that were formed from survivors from this organization.
Yes, the
Well,
testimonials of the survivors that graduated or finally made it out of this program, they have got a lot to say online. If you
oh,
do your
anybody who wants to know, I mean, I'm happy to do a whole episode and share some of them. I can invite a couple of the survivors on the show, and see where that goes. But I think what's really important is that if we're ever going to end the drug crisis in our country, we're going to have to, again, find what we can all agree on. And I think what we all agree on is that proper help is what people need. And proper help can include faith-based organizations, but we also need to have people, being encouraged if they have diagnoses to stay on their medications. Not, I think in their packet, they say they require people to get off their meds before they even come in. They don't encourage medication. When one of the directors from Great Lakes was asked, what do you do, like, with people who have diagnosis in mental health? And she said, well, if they pray.
and like that brings me back to my first comment at the beginning of the show. I mean, did chime in anywhere, within the centuries, 1700s, 1800s, throwing gay people into a facility and trying to change them. Somebody want to chime in and remember that? It didn't work. Lobotomies for
Yeah.
it didn't work.
So here
has like along those lines.
So here's a comment from one of our viewers. There are medically licensed faith-based rehab, of course, absolutely. And thank you for pointing out the distinction. That's it blew my mind when I heard they weren't licensed. I just
read the comment again. Did you say medically licensed? Or they just
there are medically licensed faith-based rehab. So in other words,
people are not one, is what
it's the best of both worlds, right? It's kind of like getting out of that mentality of black and white thinking, left versus right. There's got to be something that all of us agree on. And it's a holistic, like they say that they're a holistic approach, but really holistic has more to do with just natural. It's a full body thing, right? Mind and soul and spirit and body. I know at the VA, there's programs, and they really do a great job of including, for some of my friends that have been through substance abuse disorder treatment and things like that. It's really interesting because they do incorporate a lot of faith-based stuff, but then you've got the recreational therapy. You've got, medications that are necessary and needed. There's more than just one angle to treat somebody who struggles.
Agreed.
Yeah. So anyways, what are the next steps? So that's the question that I get from a lot of people that we talk to. What's happening? What's the next step? And a lot of people think it's, what are we voting no for? It's like, no. We're telling the board to vote no.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it does say, I did put that on the top of the petition, and then I addressed it to the board. Well, originally I addressed it to Jim Healy and Anna Kissel, and then apparently we all got her to quit, or they fired her. I'm not sure. So I've continued that line to all planning commission and board members. So it is addressed, and yes, it's you're encouraging them to vote no for the application of this place and for any kind of rezoning or additives they may come up with, such as this overlay they might want to put on top of it.
Right.
Now you said you found an ordinance about the overlay and that it cannot be done because of something you found about group homes?
Well, just in general, when you're looking at the village ordinances, group homes, in my opinion, I am not an attorney. I don't pretend to be an attorney. I've been told I should become an attorney, but no, thank you. Um, um, when I went through the ordinances, it was very clear to me that the reason it popped into my head actually is because when the Village of Richfield unilaterally rezoned my property, they rezoned it to like this, it's sort of like a residential slash rural kind of use. And I got to thinking about it because I'm like, I actually probably could have this organization on my property based on the zoning, really. And so it kind of got me questioning, and I dug into the ordinances, and sure enough, group homes are not a permitted use on an institution, uh, anything that's zoned institution, and what really throws it into that different category is the overnight, is the living there, the residents that want to stay in the facility. It sort of changes the character of the use of that property, from being just like a school, or even if it was like a day treatment center. I believe that, don't quote me, I believe that's a permitted use. But like the residential zoning is where group homes actually belong. I
And
just
that's what the ordinance 170 dot whatever.
Yeah, it's all in our village ordinances. We'll do a deep dive one of these nights.
We need
I'm
to
sure
do a
tonight
deep
people are
dive
gonna
on
be like,
that.
"Where are your receipts? You're
What
just."
I want to know is, can we sue them? Can we have a lawsuit again? You found an ordinance that said they cannot do that. So
So
what does that mean?
what I've learned the hard way is that anybody can sue anybody for anything at any time. So let's start there.
Okay.
The other thing is litigation is expensive. It's not fun. Um, I did it with Richfield because I had consulted with many attorneys from excellent organizations, by the way, very incredibly civic minded, constitutionally minded people. These are law firms that will not side with one political party over another, because they're there to just enforce the Constitution and represent the Constitution of our rights as people, as individuals, and not special interests, not the guys with the big money. Because, you know, we as Americans, we're not dumb. We know how the world kind of works. But when it trickles into your community and just sort of saturates it with this um, mindset of, you are the peasants and you will listen to us.
Right.
That's when we as Americans we need to stand up and we need to say, no, this is not what you are here to do. You are not here to squelch our input, to squelch our speech. It's okay to have a different opinion. In fact, let's encourage the meeting of the minds and different perspectives. Let's have more representation of the people. And I really think what has happened over the years is it's like this snowball effect in Richfield, right? They got away with doing things a certain way for so long, and the climate has changed, and they just
There's no accountability anymore.
there's no accountability. They
So
took
they
away
can
the
violate our ordinances that have been in place like this until somebody hires an attorney to go after them for violating this ordinance. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so what I'm saying is I wouldn't hang my hat on this ordinance. I don't, if Richfield, if we don't get elected and let's say the board stays the same way and they did trick us, I think they've pretty much learned their lesson and they're putting out fires right now. And with all due respect, that's my opinion. I have no way of knowing. But let's say they do try to shove this through later. I mean, there are going to be some issues that they're going to be presented with, but it's going to have more to do with the conflict of interest. People on the board voting that shouldn't. Basically, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just telling you what I see as issues. It's going to come through the process and how this came about in the first place. I just don't see them ever.
It's a huge problem in America when your public officials can violate ordinances that are already in place. Really.
Well, I mean, going back to the scenic pit, the Village of Richfield has continued to completely ignore The courts. Because in my case, I did go to court. I said, look, there's this public controversy. It's my belief that the Village of Richfield is lying to the community based on everybody I had spoken to. Right. And I'm like, why are they lying? It was the strangest thing. I would have never even dug into the whole thing in all the working parts if that wouldn't have happened, because, you know, I'm like, this is a weird controversy. Let's let the courts decide, right? Because we've got the legislative branch of government, we've got the executive branch of government. And when there's discord or there's, controversy, we let the courts decide. That's what the courts are there for. And, I didn't sue for money. I sued for the right to use my property, and I won. And, I think
I'd like to know what some of the farmers feel like in the area. I've heard that they've been messed with pretty bad here as well. And I think
yeah,
they're going through the same things that you're talking about that happened to you.
well, the most recent thing is that it seems like the village, despite they appointed this like special board. I forgot what it's called, but it was a board of farmers in the area to help Richfield kind of come up with a plan that would work for those farmers that are still farming. And it just seemed like every time it came back, every meeting I went to, the farmers were just so upset because it seemed like the Village of Richfield kept sneaking in these pieces that they didn't agree with. It started off with the unit, like the animal units. It was real strange. It was like you could have like 125 animals, but then the farmers are like, well, I'm already violating the ordinance if I've got, 50 chickens and 80 cows, like what? It was just really bizarre. So now they broke it down to like, you know, um, 0.01 unit for a chicken. And, so they solved that one. And then they went on to basically try to push through this idea that farmers with land zoned agricultural had to have a principal primary use, basically a house. I'm using geeky words because I'm remembering it from the meeting packet, but a house. It has to have a house on it. So gone are the days where they can put up, a pole barn to store their tractors in, or a silo to hold their crops. And basically, Richfield is trying to say, look, you can have those things still, but you have to live on the property too. Well, that doesn't sit well with farmers. That's not rural way of life. That's not country way of life. That's let's make this a residential, 95% residential community. And as many subdivisions as we have, we are a suburb. I don't think anybody here wants 95% residential.
No, not at the expense of the farmers and pushing them off their land. That's insane.
It is insane.
Yeah.
To say that they can't access their, use their property. I mean, it's just silly. I listened to some of the public comments during that, and, it was disheartening to listen to some of these fourth, fifth generation farming families who are like, but wait a minute, like my kid was going to take this parcel and do this with, and
I mean, basically what it is killing the American dream. These cronies are killing the American dream.
Right.
In every city right now, every village, every town, and we've got to get them out because your land is your land. And as long as it's not harming someone and you're not dumping arsenic in the water or something crazy, ooh. I mean, yeah, you should be able to do what you want, I
just find
it doesn't affect others,
And that's just
think about the guy that has,
if they could conduct business without hurting other people, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But when it hurts, us as residents and citizens, that's when it's gone too far. And as cheesy as it sounds, I say it all the time. When we joined the military, we took an oath to uphold our Constitution, and I took it seriously. It's not just in war; it's this. It's being able to stand up and say, you know what, guys, you kind of got out of control here. Like you've taken it too far.
You're nickel and diming people.
Yes.
You're invading their privacy and their American dream. You know, finding someone because they want to put up a beautiful flower box, for example, on the outside of their window.
Right.
I mean, I think I would actually flip. I would go find that person. I'd shove the piece of paper in their mouth. That's
Well,
probably
how about the
I'd sell my house.
Whitcombs? The
Huh.
Whitcombs wake up one day and they start getting these fines and forfeitures for violating this ordinance in right over by the old feed mill, on 175. And like it was I worked on that case for like a year and a half and helping do the research, and I was appalled at the records and the emails I was reading and how they treated this family, how they talked about them, how they knew that there was, maybe some struggles that were happening because of all the controversy. They never told the courts, hey, this woman might be struggling. I find it deplorable and unacceptable as a governing agency. It's not their role to harass and intimidate families that are in their way, because guess what? We're back to sewer and water. Their property is identified in sewer pack as the area for wastewater treatment to go into.
Do we have any questions so far? I know we're skipping on.
Let's see. No, not too many questions. We do have 11 viewers, so hi everybody. Just a reminder to everybody, please hit subscribe. Where is it? Over there. Hi Pam. Okay, anyways. Please hit subscribe. It really does help. Share with your friends. To anybody who might be on the replay crew, like go ahead and post comments. We're always here. I'm going to mention it again. Trolls, you're always welcome. I actually love me a troll because it opens up the dialogue and lets us have some talk, a little chitty chat. As far as for the future, there is here's some announcements. So let's do announcements now. Dum 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 dum. Someday I'm going to have like transition videos, Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. The church property is identified as a possibility for a waste treatment plant. Ding 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 ding.
Nice.
Ding.
I'm gonna live across the street from both.
Well, let me tell you something really interesting. When I bought the pit, I went over and talked to the people across the street, and when he first bought the property, there were surveyors out there, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And they told him, "Well, there's going to be a wastewater treatment plant here for the Bark Lake district," and he's like, "Not on my property." I think he lawyered up and was like, "Get out of here," that was a long time ago, but it's just interesting that all of these pits, and it just seems to attract the next phase of wastewater treatment, it's,
Oh my God.
I don't know. I didn't know.
That doesn't make any sense to put that in the center of the little hamlet where people go to dine. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
If I can be totally honest on how the pit thing started, I still remember the day I walked into the village hall and I asked Jim Healy, "Hey, my house is on Amy Bell Road and we have about an acre and a half. Can I have a pony?" And he said no. Well, fast forward, I find this property, I want to do the thing. And he looks over at me and he goes, "I should have just let you have the pony." All because I wanted to find property for horses.
Yeah, I guess,
No,
I say I didn't want high rise and crackheads across the street. But now we've got, a waste management plant. That's great. So
Well, it's been identified as that. I don't know if they're going to do it, but nonetheless, I think what needs to happen here is we've just had people on the board for too long. The other people on the board just are basically friends that they found. We only have 5 people. We need 7. I know I've heard people say, "Well, why would we want a 7-person board? We want the government to be smaller." But that's not how it works.
I thought that myself when you said that.
Right, but here's how it works. The difference between like a monarchy and Congress, right? And so like the more representation you have, the better things are. So each representative has less people.
But we're talking about quality representation.
Quality is absolutely essential. Yeah. I've even had other local communities tell me their board members are like, but Danah, it takes too long to get things done. And I'm like, good, right?
Well,
Let's
I mean, the
talk.
other thing about it is too, I mean, even Menominee Falls looked at us sideways because apparently they have a board member for each district.
Right, we
And
don't.
they
Right.
couldn't believe that we just had 5 for all 12 of ours.
And they're
And I'm
not
like,
spread out
really, is
enough.
that weird?
I don't know.
I'm learning a lot too.
Yeah, it's sort of a crash course, right? I think what's most important is we just need to keep the message positive.
I
Um,
don't like the 5 because if 2 are yes and 2 are no, because we have 5, right?
right.
Then the president is always the tiebreaker. That sounds like what's the word? Give me a good one. Dictatorship, um,
That's
Nazism. I don't know. It's not right that the president is always the tiebreaker, you know.
no.
But
Well, they don't
term
really
limits
have
and
too
that
many.
too.
It's not too often that there's a dissenting vote. I think the most recent was Pam Schmidt, but she voted against the ATV trail. I'm like, well, of all things to
The
dissent.
one time she didn't vote with the boys for the majority. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard too many strong opinions about the ATV. I think most people kind of look at it like, well, there's a snowmobile trail. Who cares? Right. I mean,
Now Bark Lake is pretty upset about it. I've
are
heard
they?
them out on the campaign trail here. They're irate that it was even fathomed to vote no on. You
What are
know,
you hearing from them? I'm curious.
they want to make sure that I support it, and I do. I mean, why are you going to say yes to snowmobiles and not to ATV?
Oh, so okay. I thought
Uh,
you meant that the Bark Lake people were against the ATV trails. You're saying the
no, no,
opposite,
they're for
right?
it, and
Because I'm sitting here thinking of all
they
my
were
Bark.
very upset. They vocalized they were very upset that Pam Schmidt voted uh,
Well,
against it.
because I'm sitting here thinking of all my Bark Lake friends and family, and I'm like, dude, those people are always on ATVs.
Right,
It's like,
right.
wait a
Yeah,
second.
we're saying the same thing. Yeah.
Samesies. I get it. I got
So
you.
it is a concern, and if we want to preserve this and not, let this town get too modernized and urban, then
Right.
I think we need to change the board. Yeah.
Everybody understands that growth is a part of life, right? It's going to happen. It's just, what does that look like, you know? And when you know that a community has when you have a community whose slogan is the country way of life, I just don't see how it's responsible to try to shove the opposite mentality underneath. It's like, don't then change the name. Don't call us the country way of life. Call us uh the I don't know what's a good term.
The Village of Richfield. We just need to make it great again.
Well, of course. No, what I'm saying though is like, I mean, the board doesn't really seem to be wanting to preserve that. It seems like they really just want to push through development and have the people believe that we're still rural country way of life. And that's just not the truth of it. That's not what's actually happening, you know? And hopefully we can change that. Hopefully we can bring it back in and sort
We
of.
need to bring it back in. There's still a way to get this turned around.
Yeah, I really think the litigious nature of the board. You can go on CCAP, anybody, and just put in Village of Richfield, and you can look at all of the lawsuits, and it's not normal. It's not normal. It's not the way a government should be treating its citizens, because the people that I've reached out to that are in litigation with them, there's very, very little opportunity for settlement. It's sort of just a do it our way or we'll police for profit, right?
Right.
So there's a whole nother episode on that you guys can go back to. But okay, let's do the announcements. Okay. So announcements. Thursday night, there is a plan commission meeting at 7:00. I think the doors open at 6. I might be wrong, but
We're still going to get to the parking lot at 6.
okay.
We're going to bring our signs. We'll provide signs too if you don't have one. A lot of people
Well,
are
that's a
gonna
good place for people to pick up signs.
We'll have some.
Okay.
Mainly we're switching over though to the campaign signs because putting the vote no to halfway house sign in your yard is not going to help your cause anymore. You've got to pick candidates to vote no for you on the other side of this when they table it.
Well, and I think that's a really huge thing that we need everybody to get on board with, right? We live in a small community. We're all going to hear rumors about each other. There's always going to be, some weird interpersonal issues. The reality is, I think we as a community, there's some people that disagree, but the majority of us really just don't want this. It
Yeah, we
doesn't,
don't want this.
we
And,
don't have the
they
infrastructure. We
gossip
don't have the
about
security.
records and all that, but at the end of the day, we do have a president with 34 felonies. So I think that all of us are quite qualified to go into. Okay, so just one more comment about 6 o'clock at the Sterling Chalet
Okay.
this Thursday on the 6th. Whether they table it or not, we're going to let them hear us out, see our signs, see our presence. I mean, that's the hearing because you can't speak at this. But,
Right.
and there's not going to be any parking for the cult. No, they're going to try to bus in their people. They're going to try to outnumber us, and we're going to get there first. And we're going to have our pitchforks and our signs. And that's how we're going to do this.
I can't find my
Grassroots.
pitchfork, so
Grassroots. And then we're all going to go home and we're going to vote. We're going to vote for
Right.
Danah, Pam, and Jeff.
Right.
Because we are absolute no's, and our entire families are absolute no's.
Right. And, it's not putting anybody else down. It's just, it's as simple as it is. The only way we can ensure that this doesn't go through and that they don't try to sneak one on over us like they did sewer and water is to make sure that, you stick with the 3 candidates. You got to write in Pam, Dwayne, and Jeff Kreutzer or Kreutzer? Kreutzer. And then I'm on the ballot. So Danah Zoulek. I put my hat in this time and I feel honored to do it. I want to thank everybody that has encouraged us, that has come out to meet us, given us the opportunity to meet your families and talk. It's just truly been really, I know it's really helped me a lot. I know, Pam, you're a bit stressed because this is new for you.
I just want to drive dump truck and I go back to paving highways, but yeah, my mind is blown. And you know what? I can do it. I have the extra time. I'll make the extra time to be a good trustee for this town, and maybe we can put some extra referendums in place and policies to prevent this from happening in the future.
Right.
That's my goal.
And if I haven't said it enough, I appreciate you completely. Like, thank you for what you did. And it's really commendable. I'm really proud of my fellow veterans, especially females. We kind of have this unique little love-hate thing amongst us female vets where it's like we get each other, but we're like, oh, what you want?
I don't feel that way. Maybe
not normally.
No.
Not with you, no, but just
that way.
Yeah, okay.
Let me meet those girls.
Maybe they were just engineers. Maybe the 88 mics.
Maybe the type of job, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we're all going to be flyering the community one last time here to get our campaign flyers out here. We're working round the clock printing right now. So I'm hoping everybody's homes will be hit by Sunday. We want it done before March 11th so that you know who we are and what we stand for.
This comment made me laugh. Can you see it or no? It says the shit show.
Yes, it is a shit show.
Wait, I made it the whole time without swearing.
Yeah. I have 3 weeks to slap this together. I think we did damn good. Everybody gave everything. There isn't one person that slacked at all.
And I'm excited to have some of the people who've really engaged in this, and we couldn't be where we are without them. And I want to, talk to them first before mentioning them on my channel, just to make sure, I don't want to be blurting people's names out there if they don't want me talking. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing what little bit we did. Again, this was just an impromptu sort of last minute. I called Pam 10 minutes before we went on air. We whipped this together.
Gosh, we could call us a shit show right now.
Yes, a shit show, right.
We got to practice, where are we going to practice?
Well, we just do more lives.
Yeah, hopefully we get better at this.
Let's get bullet points. The nice thing is, too, I have this way of, here, I'll kind of show it to you. So what we do is I can share things on the screen. So like that. So like you said to go to Adult Teen Challenge, not to advertise them, but so we can actually go onto websites and look around at things and in the future.
That'll be good, because if we do get a troll, then we can show them exactly where it says halfway house.
Yep, and that's what I do on this show. I like to show receipts for everything, just because. Oh, that's that's the new tagline. That's what she's.
Oh yeah, I knew that's what you meant. I know who you are. I'm like, it just sounds bad.
I know.
We're a shit show.
We're just trying to be funny and
no, it is
lighthearted, but I'm sure people out there are like, why are they saying Richfield?
I mean, this has completely stressed everyone out to where they can't even function. They're so scared. And I know that I've gone through it. My neighbors have gone through it. I'm trying to pull myself out of it because I want to lead this fight for trustees.
We didn't even touch on the angle of what happened at Mass, but we'll talk about that on our next episode.
Like we already mentioned all the rabbit holes you can go down. They all interconnect, and there's a lot of corruption and conflict of interest in this town. And
a lot.
Story, we need to change that. So.
Yeah, and and it's not like, some people are like, well, Danah, you think that all the government is corrupt. And I'm like, look, I don't think that that's how it works at all. Because from my experience, what I witness is it only takes one or two people to be corrupt. The rest are just buying whatever they're being sold and going along and not asking questions. They don't have the assertiveness and, and once a group of people gets into that groupthink mindset, it doesn't matter how many facts you throw their way. It's like a psychological phenomenon. They just can't see the other side.
Yeah.
And, critical thinking is a skill that is really important, that I encourage.
There is a lot to critically think about this entire deal, though.
Yes.
So right. I understand everybody's brain is just ready to explode. And, we got to sift through all that crap and try to, get to the finish line and replace them. And then if we can find anything at all to call them out on legally, we will.
I mean, just to wrap it up, in my mind, it almost feels like Richfield officials spend a lot more time putting out fires than properly planning in the first place to prevent the fires from happening, right? So it's just this constant like, oh my God, what did we do wrong? Try to cover, instead of just doing the right thing from day one. How hard is it? Is it hard?
Yeah, I don't know.
So. Well, thank you for joining me, Pam. I really had
having me.
Yeah, and
do it again soon with our bullet point.
We will. And to all of you local warriors out there, thank you for joining us. Hit the subscribe, do the likes, help the algorithm, and if you can, share the link to friends and family. Just say, "Hey, look at this weird stuff's going down in our town," And
and in the meantime, with the bullet points, it'll be better.
Oh yeah, totally. We'll be much more planned. Okay. And a lot more guests coming up. I've had some commitments from a few people I'm excited to have on. I'm not going to announce them yet, but when the time comes, I will. And then we're just going to go from there and just keep seeing what we can do in the next month before election. So thank you. And have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.